Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who is continuing his work on the music of George Balašević, and I'm going to be covering side B of his album Odlazi Cirkus. So this is part 7 of my Balašević series, which means that part 6, which I'll put a link to up there, was about side A. You must watch that before you watch this. But maybe you already have. And if you have, and it's been a few months, let me remind you of some of the themes that I am approaching on this album, sort of more globally a way to understand this album. The main thing that interests me is the conflict between realism and romanticism. And I think this album can largely be seen as one about the ways in which living your life romantically, that is to say, living your life as though you are in a novel, as though everything you do is epic in scope and highs and lows. Living your life as though you are in a novel or in a movie, living your life romantically, ultimately leads to loneliness and sadness. To the contrary, if you live your life as a realist, that is to say, accepting things as they are, making incremental growth, and really accepting reality, that is the path to happiness. I think he illustrates this through his storytelling. I also think that there's a couple of literary references which I bring up quite a bit in this review. They're both to two separate novels, which themselves are comments on the dangers of romanticism. The first of which Balašević mentions directly, Don Quixote, the figure of a character who thinks he's in a novel and so makes a fool of himself, and the other being Emma Bovary from Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary, a character who is so dominated by her vision of her life as being something romantic that she destroys the life of herself, the life of her husband, and the life of her daughter. So that's the larger literary themes that I'm seeing in here. Sort of on a smaller level, I try to really analyze how this is all seen through the character of Vasa Ledachkum, whose name I could not pronounce at all in the first half of this video. I learned. That's all I've been doing these last couple months. My wife and I, my wife who's co-writing these videos with me, we just sat there, Ledachkum, Laka Dakuchkum, Ledachkum, Luke Skywalkerdum. So, I talk a lot about the figure of Vasa Ledachkum as the prototype of what this album is about. Like, he is the example of somebody who lives his life romantically, puts his ideals in front of what's real, and this leads to misery. Quite often on this album, it is centered around the themes of leaving because you have a romantic goal to attain, or leaving because you know that your romantic nature, your search for something else, is going to ruin the life of the person that you're with. So there you go. That's the basic framework for this video. I'll be talking more about other stuff, and you really should see the first part. But I think now you're ready to see me flip the album to side B. All right, well, let's flip this album over from side A to side B with the song Dobro Gde Si, which is a very nice kind of poppy, upbeat rock song. Even sounds almost like sort of like a faux reggae song at times. Very, very charming. Great synthesizer, rock sound. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said that this album's a little bit more meat and potatoes. It's not doing as many different things as maybe Moya Mami did, but it's just a very nice spoken verse and then a very, very catchy chorus. At times, this even sort of reminds me of music you might hear for an exercise video. Yeah, and this is one of my favorite songs on the album because of the title, Dobro. It starts off with Dobro, and if you're married to somebody who speaks a language that you don't, you often hear them say things, and it seems like they say the same things over and over again. Like if you live in America, and you're around a lot of people who speak Spanish, it seems as though every child just says mira, mira, mira all the time, which makes sense because if you hear little children speaking English, they're always saying look, 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 So these little words jump out to your ear. When my wife is talking to her sister or her brother or anybody in Serbian or back in Serbia, this is what I hear on the conversation. Ciao, pa dobro, tako da, pa dobro, dobro, pa dobro, tako da, ciao. All I hear is pa dobro. So that kind of set me up for the nature of this song. Pa dobro gde si ti. Now listen, if you read the translations of this online, they're not very good. They translate this as, well, where are you? Which isn't at all the meaning. It really means, hey, what's up? That's how you should translate this song. Gde si ti? Pa dobro gde si ti? Dva, četiri, pet. Right? It should actually be, hey, what's up? Because gde si ti is kind of a boring way of saying hello and greeting somebody in Serbo-Croatian. The whole song is based on the conceit that the singer does not know how to approach a young woman. Okay? He sees her, and he feels something for her, and he knows her, and he walks up to her, and he just says, hey, what's up? He has all these other lines, and he says this in the lyrics. He has all these other verses he's written about ways he can say hello, but all he's capable of saying is, hello, what's up? A while ago, 30 years ago, there used to be a TV show on MTV in America, and it was a dating show, and people had to like say one sentence to try to get the attention of the person who, the woman who was there. And I'll never forget, one time this one guy gets on and is all like, hey, I live hard and I play fast, or some next guy comes up and he's all like, I'll treat you like a queen if that's what you'd like, if you know what I mean. Everyone has these little cheesy lines. And they get to this one guy. He's really excited. He just goes, I just want to meet you. And my friends and I, we just laughed and laughed and laughed at how dorky this guy was. This song is right in that zone of just, I just want to meet you. This guy is just so enamored with this woman and has no idea what to do. I can relate to this quite well, again, when I was in high school. After those dances where I hated listening to Stairway to Heaven, I made it into high school and didn't have much luck with girls or women or whatever. And like, I just never felt like I knew what to say. And I felt like every time I would talk to a girl, I'd be like, hey, you are good, are you? Are you still good? Like I never really knew what to say. And so in a way, this is a song that's in that kind of comedy, right? That kind of comedic, dorky inability to reach a woman. But in reality, as is often the case with our dear George, it goes much deeper. This is yet another anti-romantic song. To give you yet another literary take, another grand concept from the history of literature, we can think about courtly love, which is a medieval sense of love, actually popularized in Don Quixote as well, although it existed well before, of the love of a lady by a knight. Now usually this lady was married, that doesn't matter in this case, but here like the love that this man had for the lady was like, it made him more noble, it made him more interesting. And it was often based on love at first sight and just like this overwhelming sense of like, what is her beauty? Who is this woman? And Cervantes touches on this with Dulcinea, the great love of Don Quixote, who's really just a kind of vulgar, earthly woman. And the thing is courtly love is based on not knowing the woman that you're looking at. More importantly, it's based on thinking that a woman is just for you, is whatever your vision is of this woman is who this woman is. I'll often be talking to my kids about like the nature of the internet, and the way that we're exposed to all these people and celebrities and all that. And I just try to remind them, everybody is a person. Everybody you see on the internet has an internal life, has had a favorite teacher in school, has a favorite color, enjoys certain kinds of food, has a brother or sister, like it's very easy to dehumanize people in the internet age. But this dehumanization has gone on for a long time in these kinds of courtly love stories, where you see this woman and you just project all of your wishes and desires onto her, and she doesn't even really exist. This is a song which, first of all, has the funny chorus where he doesn't know how to say hi to her. But it's actually about his desire to know her. I go back to, I just want to meet you. In some ways, the guy who said, I just want to meet you was the only true lover on that silly TV show. because he just wants to know her. Balašević wants to know this woman. This is an entire song about wanting to destroy the image that he has of her by replacing it with the reality of the actual person. So, you know, I met my wife in an online dating site, and I saw pictures of her, and I had a whole image of it, and I had this idea of what she must be like and who she must be based on what she said. But it was all just in my mind. And then I met her, and then I fell in love with her, the person, not her, the idea. So this is a song about replacing an idea with a person. And it's very funny. It is always funny. The song is always funny. Like the whole chorus, like, do you still have the same phone number? The one that starts with 203? Like, it's just kind of sweet and pathetic. How's your family? How's your mother? How's your father? How's everybody? He just kind of goes over this. But it's these verses that matter the most. Like, he dreams of a movie where she is the protagonist, and he imagines what is her favorite color. He tries to imagine what kind of personality she has. He wants to love her, kiss her, lie for her, and forgive her. Okay? This last one's pretty important, you know? Every relationship, doesn't matter how good it is, you have to forgive each other for something. There's some reason. There's like some kind of depth to forgiveness. And right here, that's what we see. When he describes his love for her, he says, sometimes I don't know if I'm dreaming. Sometimes I don't know what's the reality. I wanted exactly a girl like her. That's a strange coincidence, exactly like her. I'm serious. Here he is, and he's just laying it out precisely. This is the problem with courtly love. This is the problem with love at first sight. I wanted a girl exactly like her, and he doesn't know anything about her. The true subject of this song is his ignorance, is what he does not know. There is a complexity to her, and they hint at that. Some people think she's gentle, some say she's unpleasant. I think she's great. Other people think that she sucks. Apparently, the word that they use is an old-fashioned word for being lame, a trumpet. What, trupa?
Truba.
Truba. That was, you're such a trumpet. That used to be an insult. And then what's amazing is he says, I agree. I always agree. No matter what anyone says about her, he agrees because he doesn't know. His desire for her is not the desire to possess the ideal. His desire is to learn the real, to actually process reality on its own terms and learn who this actual woman is. It is an acknowledgement that romantic visions of love are flawed. He seems to be getting closer to real love. But now it's time. It's time. It's time for that song. Remember I told you when I listened to this album, all I'm waiting for is one chorus, one galvanizing moment, one of the greatest moments in music history. That moment is coming up with the next song. Okay, I'm not going to sing Mirka, but I want to sing Mirka. That's the next song, and this is a very funny point on the album. Now, the verse to this song is kind of a rock and roll verse, got that nice kind of dirty slide guitar to open, and then the song kind of settles, and then we have just all this spoken word. Again, it's a little bit like the previous song in which it's a catchy chorus and kind of a spoken word verse. Some little ooh la 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 la's in the back. And I remember the first time that I listened to it, I was wondering, is this ironic? Is this supposed to be a bad song, or is this supposed to be a good song? I answer yes. I always answer yes to both of this. The power of this song is in its chorus, which is an amazingly powerful chorus, an amazing piece of art. What I think is interesting is that the verse sets the chorus up. Now this song is going to get all kinds of complicated. This is going to get very postmodern. This is another song that is about a song. It's more music about music. He's at a bar, okay? He's at a bar and someone approaches him. Now this is Balašević here. This is not some character. This is Balašević very much singing in the first person, I believe. And the guy flatters him, says, "You're wonderful," and so he invites him to sit down. Again, Balašević is always kind of poking fun at himself, showing himself off to be vain, you know. And he talks about a song. This guy says, "I have a song for you. You're a great musician, so I have a song." It's a Schlager. I'd never heard of Schlager music. It is a, and I'm quoting the definition from Wikipedia here, style of European popular music that is generally a catchy instrumental accompaniment to vocal pieces of pop music, with simple, happy-go-lucky, and often sentimental lyrics. So we have a song within a song. Eventually, we get to this chorus. And this chorus itself is not a part of the song, but it is. In Stara pesma on Moje Mani, the previous album, he incorporates the chorus to another song in the middle. It's an example of what we call intertextuality, where a piece of music references another piece of music or piece of art. Here, we have a false intertextuality. The chorus is written and performed by George Balašević, pretending to be some random guy that George Balašević met at a pub. This chorus is supposed to be bad. We are supposed to laugh at it. It is just so outrageously Schlager. It turns out sometimes Balašević himself would refer to himself as a Schlager musician, as a way of once again being self-effacing, making fun of himself. So we might be tempted to talk about this song, talk about this chorus, as being Balašević looking down on other musicians. Look at this fool who thinks that this is good music. It is certainly a comment on Schlager music. It is making fun of the sentimentality of this genre, okay? It is making fun of this style. Even the lyrics are totally bizarre, okay? Mirka, my only love, who is touching you now? We could have had a happy life if you had found the right way to my heart. So it's a song about a lost love, but the guy who was left is blaming the person who left him for not loving him correctly, right? Just kind of a weird, bizarre thing. But this is the thing. This chorus is awesome. This chorus is my favorite piece of music on the entire album, and I like this album a lot. This chorus has so much unexpected power, and a lot of that power, I believe, is built in by anticipation. You see, once you've heard the song once, you get this chorus stuck in your head. Matter of fact, I'm going to play the chorus for you right now. I'm just kidding, I'm not going to. I'm going to make you wait. Did you feel that little bit of a tension right there? That's how you feel when you listen to this song for the second time. Because you know this wonderful chorus, this goofy, funny, hilarious, weird chorus is coming. You want to hear the chorus? Well, you still have to wait a little bit more, because that's the thing that Balašević does. There's 3 verses. The second verse and the third verse are a normal length. The first verse is double. There's a little break in between the first half and the second half. And if you've ever heard the song before, that's where you start. You know when you do that thing where you don't know where the chorus comes, you sing along with a song and you think you know it so well, and then you start singing the chorus at the wrong time, right? Like, you think it's going to go Mirka, which is the beginning of the chorus. You think you're finally going to get to it, but you don't. You have to wait. And then the chorus plays, and then we get a verse, and then we get a chorus, and then a verse, and then a chorus, and then the chorus again, and then the chorus again. By the time you're done listening to it for the first time, this chorus has been completely burned into your brain. And what Balašević does with this song, which he is pretending not to have written, which he pretends to look down on, which he pretends to think is bad, is refer to it almost like a virus. It's like that movie, The Ring. You know, you watch The Ring, and then within 7 days, you watch a little tape. Within 7 days, you're going to die if you've watched it. Once I play this chorus for you, forever will it dominate your destiny. You will always hear this chorus. You will never get it out of your head. Even Balašević talks about that in the song. He talks about how he no longer is capable of writing his own music because, quote, that performance appears like a hallucination. It's haunting me, torturing, coming back, always like a boomerang. That silly, lovely chorus. Both at the same time. Silly and lovely. He is celebrating it and he is mocking it all at the same time. Really, it's about art and artists. It's about someone looking for a break, and we're supposed to make fun of this artist but also admire him. I think this is very tied in to Gorka Pesma, to the concept of what really is an artist. You know, if the fake critics make fun of Balašević for not being bitter, and he makes fun of this guy for being this, kind of where does it stop? We're supposed to make fun of this musician, but he also made this chorus that is capable of creating so much power. I think the second guy is Balašević. I think he is the Schlager singer. I think it's a conversation with himself about his own music and about his discomfort with his ability, with his amazing ability to make such touching and memorable music that doesn't fit within what he thinks he should maybe do. It's just a beautiful piece of art. It's weird because it's almost a parody song. It's almost like a joke song, you know? But like a good joke song. You know, I just reviewed that Bo Burnham album, you know, and it's very similar. You know, a good joke song is a good joke and a good song. This does that to where you sing along and you get it stuck in your head, and it's a joke. It is a joke, but it's also very serious. Now, does it tie into the theme of romanticism? Maybe, maybe not. I think when we get to the concept of what is an artist and how an artist needs to understand who they really are, I think this is an anti-romantic song in that way. The fact that we are struggling to like a cheesy song, that we are presented with ourselves. We think that we are better than Mirka, right? I am not going to be so silly as to fall for such a simple, stupid chorus as this. I'm a real music fan. But it is all destroyed by the reality, the immovable reality of this chorus. Do you want to hear it now? So let's listen to this chorus. I'm actually going to have you listen to one of the verses leading up to it, just to give you that sense of anticipation even further, and just the glory of this terrible, terrible, awesome chorus.
Mirka, ljubavi jedina moja ti. Ko te sada Mirka i ko ti pod prozore dolazi. Da ti svirka, Mirka, možda bi i sretno živeli. Samo da si ti, naša pravi put, do puta srca.
Every time when my kids listen to this song, they go cha-cha-cha at the end. The amount of restraint you have to not do cha-cha-cha. Is it great? Is it terrible? Oh, it's everything. And let's listen to it again. Let's listen to the whole build-up to the chorus, just with the next verse. And this kind of like rockin' bit with these slide guitars here and everything. Serca.
Rekao da ću mi pomoći, koliko je u mojoj moći, ja sam pevač tek. Reče, svi su producenti, promašeni, dirigenti, niko nemaš nek. Mi već godinama sviramo, a strašno slabo prosperiramo.
feel the anticipation?
Mirka, ljubavi jedina moja ti. Ko te sada birka i ko ti pod prozore dolazi? Da ti svirka, Mirka, možda bi i sretno živjeli. Samo da si ti, naš pravi put, do mog tužnog srca.
You know, there actually is some saxophone. I didn't even really notice it on that song. He even then does a whole bit where he repeats all of the words again in a spoken word, and it's not clear. Is he doing this ironically? Is he doing this seriously or not? It really doesn't matter. The more you are infected, the more you understand the song. Okay, well, I guess I should stop the video there, because after you've done the Mirka chorus, there's a lot left on the album though. Look at that. Look at this. Look at how much is left here. We have like a bunch more music, but all I want to do is Mirka. Should we do the rest of the album or just stop here?
Oh, we have to do the rest.
All right. Can we just listen to Mirka for the rest of the day?
Yes.
The great Mirka ends with a bizarre fade out, where it seems as though the band just sort of gives up and stops. I think this is an intentional decision by Balašević to show that the song itself shouldn't be taken too seriously, that even the musicians just kind of stop. This is an interesting comparison to be made with the next song, O kako, tužnih, ljubavi ima. Oh, how sad love stories can be. I think that's the best way to translate that. Which starts off in a very beautiful and polished way. This piano starts playing, and then that piano is eventually replaced by some guitar. The singing on here is perhaps the best pairing of Krstić and Balašević. Just this wonderful collaboration, and each verse gets more and more layers until there are synthesizers and then some drums. Before I get into the lyrics, let's just listen to the end of Mirka with its great chaos, leading into this terrible sweetness of O kako, tužnih, ljubavi ima. The piano is about to be replaced. The guitar is about to be replaced by the piano.
Profesor Lukić sa četvrtog sprata je živeo prilično sam, a decu je učio ljubavne pesme, sonete i šta ti ja znam. O kako tužnih ljubavi ima, baš nešto razmišljam. Njegova žena, Lukić Milena, s drugim je otišla. O kako tužnih ljubavi ima, ovaj svet je ispunjen njima, sve više sumnjam da neko sretno ti voli još.
Okay, so get a good sense there, the first verse and the first chorus. Eventually things build up. The drums come, the drums go, the backup vocalists come and they go. But really what you need to know is the lyrics here. Oh, what sad love stories there are. Very hard to translate precisely in English, but the way I think you can best think of this is actually to compare it to a very famous song, Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles. Ah, look at all the lonely people. I think you could actually add that line into this song and it would work just fine. Each verse sets up a different lonely person, a different person whose love has left them, okay? And then he does an interesting thing where the chorus is broken up into two different parts. He says the chorus line, you know, which is this, oh, how many sad love stories there are. And then he delivers a punchline of sorts, which explains and ends the previous story. And then he repeats the chorus line again. So it has a nice kind of entwined feeling between the verse and the chorus, which is ultimately broken by the bridge, which I'll get to. So first we have Professor Lukić, who teaches music, and as the chorus starts, it says, oh, how many sad songs there are, you learn that his wife has left him. So he's just a nice music teacher up on the 4th floor. Again, all these nice little details that help paint a picture of who this person is. And in the chorus, he says, I doubt more and more that anybody lives happily. or anybody loves happily. Basically, there is no possibility of happy love. That's the question that he's asking. The second track is about Mrs. Eula, who does needlepoint and plays touch. Apparently touch is some kind of card game, which my wife used to play, but does not like. Can I explain the reason you don't like it?
Yes.
So the reason she doesn't like it is she used to play it during the blackouts. So there were forced blackouts in Serbia where no power could be on. This was in the 90s when she was growing up. And so she couldn't listen to Balašević.
There weren't really blackouts. There were power outages because the power plants weren't producing enough power. So there would be pre-scheduled power outages so that everyone gets some power sometimes. Okay, so everybody gets some power sometimes, and the times where you don't, you just have to be in darkness. In her case, in a little apartment in the town of Bor, just sitting there alone, no music, no TV, no light to read. All they ended up doing was playing card games with each other. It's a very sad reminder of where this series is going, everybody. We're right now in 1980. Tito is still alive and well in Yugoslavia, maybe fraying at the edges, but is still a very functional state. Before long, we're going to be headed to that point where we are in darkness, alone in little apartments playing cards. But for now, let's just sort of announce that, a little foreshadowing for the future of this channel. And so here we have this woman who does like playing touch, and then the chorus comes, and then we get the punchline. Oh, her husband died in the First World War. All that she was left with was just yellowing pictures of him. And then we get to the Great Bridge. Now this song, according to my wife, is not very well known, is not very well loved. Of all the songs on Odlazi Cirkus, it's not considered to be one of the greats. I argue this might be the centerpiece of the album. It delivers the thesis that I have found, at least, the thesis for me, the most clearly. Because it is about how people write songs, and he says this, and they write books about happy loves. That's what he says. He directly says it. It's the bridge, the drums come in, it's totally different than the rest of the music. And then he gives this poetic detail. I know some gray, sad hotels. I know some empty rooms where there's always terrible peace. Strasny mir. Strashny mir. So I don't have the little eyebrows, little diacritical marks on my notes. This one actually alters the meaning. It means passionate peace. So.
Okay, strashny mir, not strasny mir. So stupid. So here he is. He's questioning whether or not there can be such a thing as happy love, and he's certainly attacking the idea that there can be love like there is in books. Because there is no love like there is in books, even if there is real love. We then have the last verse. Angelia, who's a lady who wants a prince to pay... Angelia, who wants a prince to pay her debt, okay? She has loans. And she's sad. And then comes the chorus and the punchline, her husband is a drunkard. What's fascinating here is that all these sad punchlines appear. And then we go back to the bridge. Musically, we go back to the bridge with the drums, and then we see her husband, the husband who is a drunkard, who just goes out all night and gets drunk and ignores his wife. He comes back in the middle of the night looking for love. We can presume that means sex, and looking for his home that he left. And he discovers that she left. She left him. Now what's great about this punchline is she left with Professor Lukic. Or, as Balašević tells you, she left with the person from the first verse. And what do we make of this? What do we make of this happy ending? For such a sad song, to have such a happy ending seems like a paradox. But I think it's intentional. I think it's because not everything can be sad. Not every moment of all life is a black open sea. There are these little moments, and it seems as though these two people who have been broken by failed love managed to heal themselves. And I think we can assume that with this experience, they will have a better love, Not a love that's marked by this crushing desertion, but by some sense of togetherness. It is an album about leaving. In this song, we have somebody who is left physically, somebody who is left physically through death. We have somebody who left emotionally, and then finally, we have the person who was left emotionally leaving physically to join the person who was the first person who was left physically. Very complicated story here with leaving and coming together. But what I like to think about with this song is, what does it mean that Angelia and Professor Lukic get together? It means there is happy love. It can exist. It is as though Father Mackenzie and Eleanor Rigby got married. It's still a sad song, but it's a funny ending. We now reach the second to last song. You may notice the lighting has changed. We've been filming this video throughout the entire day. It's taken quite a bit of time. The dogs are now in the other room. We've had lunch. We've picked up our daughter. She's gone off to the mall with her friends like a good American. And now we're left with the song, I'm left with our love for each other. Ostaje mi to što se volimo. Which is another one of these songs which apparently the album is not well known for. It's a little bit more of an obscure song, kind of like the previous one, but I think it is another hidden gem. I think this is probably an underrated song with a deceptive complexity. It seems like you know exactly what it's about, but I think it goes a little bit deeper. As a matter of fact, I said that to my wife. I said what I thought the song was about. She's like, no, it's not about that. And then we listened to it some more, and she was like, damn it, it is about that. But as always, I like to talk about the music before I get to the lyrics. The lyrics are the easy part, because you know what to say. They're so deep and rich. But the music might take a little bit more. I think what this reminds me most of, kind of going back with more and more classic rock references, is the song Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. In particular, the piano and the slide guitar. It really seems like the slide guitar that has been at the periphery of this entire album is coming right out front and is taking over and is really leading the melody. It is just a beautiful lead melody line on a slide guitar. So let's have a little listen to that as the words start going, and then we'll talk more about the song and what it means.
Živi sretno na selu po ruskom romanu. Tačno tako ima ženu i sina, ima podrum pun vina i sve mu je ravno. U poslednje vreme.
So we hear it kind of building up nicely here. The piano, this kind of impatient sound to this whole song. It keeps going until we hit the chorus, where it actually becomes almost like a disco sound. Like the way that it gets played, the drums are doing a lot of open hi-hat work here. The bass even gets a little bit disco. So let's get into it as it gets a little bit more intense here with the chorus. And listen to the Boshek here. Coming up right here. Okay, so it goes back and forth in between these different kinds of modes of this sort of pulsing verse, again slightly spoken, into a more catchy, slightly disco chorus. But what is it about? As I hit stop, my wife's like, I just want to keep listening to the song. Why do we have to talk about it? It's our job. We have to talk about it. So this is what's funny about this song. If you don't know what it is somebody addressing his ex-girlfriend. He's addressing her and telling her about a conversation he had with somebody else about her. So it's a conversation with an ex-girlfriend talking to an old friend about a conversation about his ex-girlfriend. It's a weird sort of Russian nesting doll, or as they call them in Serbian, babushka. And we have three characters in this story. I think Balašević is very much playing a character. He's playing a sort of pathetic, love-struck character, much like he's been throughout much of this album. So let's analyze these three characters, okay? We have the man, that's the narrator, delusional loser. We have the ex-girlfriend. Again, we know nothing about her. Nothing at all. Not a single thing. We don't know if she's the minuet lady. We don't know if she's Androlina. We don't know anybody that she is. And then we have the third character, the friend, who is successful in life. This is my dramatic take on this song. It feels, because the chorus is all these sentences saying, Did you hear about how she left me and I'm still with her? It seems to be the delusional ramblings of a man who just won't let this woman go. You think the song is about her. You think it's about the breakup of this relationship between a man and a woman. But it's not. This song is about the breakup of a friendship between these two men. That's why the details of who the woman is don't really matter. It's about that moment where one friend matures past another. There is a breakup that happens in many friendships where somebody just advances in life while the other person can't. And there's a weird disconnect. There's a weird sadness, a bittersweet feeling that comes from that. And this song, which very much seems as though it's just a throwaway song about some guy who can't let someone go, it's really about that. Let me tell you a quick little detail that will explain the whole song. The song is about wine. So the song opens up, right? And we're having this discussion of the friend by the man. And the man talks about the friend in very interesting terms. He refers to him as living as though he's in a Russian novel, which I will come back to soon. And he also talks about how he has a nice life and a good house. And he only sees the man, he only sees the narrator at special occasions, weddings, birthdays, etc. So already we're having this sense. We all have these kinds of friends in our lives where we used to be very close, but then it's like, oh, my brother's getting married. You want to come? And then you see him. And so the verses all describe this friend's life in some great detail, and the differences in the way that the friend and the narrator live their lives. And then the chorus is all dedicated to the story about this woman. But it's not really about the woman. And I should make it clear. My wife is correct in insisting I make this clear. This isn't a conversation that he's having with this woman. He's talking at her. He's writing her a love song that she will probably never hear. But what's crucial is, where are these conversations happening? This conversation between the man and the friend is at one of these events. And as the song gets going, the two friends, or the two friends who are separating from each other over time, are getting more and more drunk. And you can tell that the friend is increasingly bored with and tired of this delusional loser who used to be his friend. At the end of the first chorus, the friend says to the narrator, "You're a child." Then the second verse shows up, and all of a sudden we have this description of the friend as someone who sees life narrowly. Like, he understands the ground, the sky and the ground. He's able to understand these two different things. Whereas the narrator defines himself as, quote, "a damned poet who stands in the rain and lies and loves." Here's the romantic hero back again. This character is not like the character of the friend. But let's go back to this concept of a Russian novel. Now, I've already talked about how romantic figures, this problematic figure, is one that lives as though he lives in a novel. But what if he lives in a realist novel? Most Russian novels are realist novels in which people live a real life, have human emotions, live in sort of poverty or in hard states, and they live lives that real people can aspire to. That's the value of realist art. It's not about princes and billionaires. It's about working people who live their lives. So it's this fascinating turn where this whole album, which can be seen as a commentary on this sort of romantic thinking, and here we have someone who's actually living as though they're in a book, but it's a Russian novel, which makes the friend something of a realist hero, as opposed to a romantic hero. A damned poet who stands in the rain and lies and loves. I think the separation between these two characters is most clearly seen in this little poetic break, in which he says, the narrator says, everyone carries within themselves a small god of their own that they privately pray to. Now, I've been appreciating his lyricism and his poetry this entire video, but what a beautiful idea, having a small god that they privately pray to. And he's not saying idol, right? He's just saying the word for God, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the concept. And so the real question is, what is this God? What are these two different gods that they pray to? I believe it is the God of romanticism and the God of realism. That the friend managed to find love, get married, have a house, be able to work. He was able to stay grounded, had the same experiences, the same upbringing as the narrator, but the narrator worships this God of lying and loving and standing in the rain. In the chorus, we once again have the friend giving suggestions to the narrator. Just go and, I don't know, play around, sleep around a little bit, you know? Let's have another glass. Let's have another liter of wine. Constantly they talk about getting closer to the truth with every liter of wine. Finally, the next verse has the narrator explaining that his friend is lucky with love, and that he is not lucky to love. And as he's talking, or as he is addressing this woman, who will probably never hear the song, he's like, you know why I'm not lucky. But I think it's really a question of which gods do they serve. Interestingly, they say that what he does now is he laments losing this woman so much that he drowns his world in wine, because anything can fit in a cup. The very first song, the song of Vasa Lachkdom, Ledachki, says very specifically that salvation can be found at the bottom of a cup. So now we have two different figures in a pub. We have multiple figures in pubs getting drunk, being lonely, being losers. Before it was salvation, now it's anything. Anything can fit in the cup. But by the end, the man, the narrator is insisting to the friend that it was true love and he'll never be able to get over it. And the friend is just done. Maybe it's just the wine, but it's becoming ridiculous. What's the word in Serbian? Do you remember? Smashing. It's just becoming ridiculous. The friend has had enough. He spent the entire evening across the table from somebody who he's trying to relate to, trying to stay with, but he no longer can. He's getting less and less patient. These times where he's going to see him here and there and here, he just can't do it anymore, as this guy delusionally talks about this one-time fling that in his mind, in his romantic mind, this Dulcinea who he's addressing is gone forever. And this chorus that just keeps coming back over and over again with the good old days when we were a young deer. That's the way they refer to themselves. So I guess a doe represents sort of innocence and fragility and feminine features. I guess young deer is like young bucks, is the idea that they're like young virile men. Mm-hmm. So a couple different kinds of deer being represented in this album. And the idea that kind of always getting closer and closer to the truth with the bottle of wine, but also closer to sadness. A small microcosm of the entire song can be seen in this relationship to wine.
Well, I think he actually says, I don't think he thinks that they're closer to the truth. I think You know how people who are drunk think that there's some kind of depth and meaning in their drunkenness?
Yeah.
So I think he's actually talking about that. That, you know, sve smo bliže istini i tuzi, što smo bliže sledećoj litri. It's like we feel like we know what life is about the more drunk we are.
Right, but they don't really.
Yeah, I don't think he believes they do.
Right, right. So
Like
it's
the narrator, not him, the character.
I think as I go along, I'm going to be interested to see what is Balašević's relationship to alcohol.
Well, yeah, he has a whole drinking song that's basically just about drinking.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get
All
there.
about wine.
So, but it is interesting, especially in this album, seeing alcohol as being the symbol of a broken life. It's the symbol of a broken romantic who cannot succeed. All right.
And to bring it to kind of finish off the deer part of the story is don't forget Lana.
Okay, what about Lana?
Well, Lane is the Serbian word for fawn.
And that was the character in the last album.
Yeah. Sve je dobro kad se dobro sluša.
All right, so we have Lana from the first album, who is like a super sweet woman who he falls in love with, but turns out she's married. We then have Life as a Sea, in which case he's not afraid like a little deer. And then we have this song in which it's the young bucks who are like virile in their virility.
In Život je more, his heart is like a doe.
Right. Well, we just happen to have them, so.
Yes. Well, you should show the box because they're actually called something else in Serbia. So this is the Croatian
This video is
name
brought
and
to you by Lani biscuits. When you absolutely positively have to eat something very tasty and very dry. I guess she used to like dip these in milk a lot or play them. They're called something different in Serbia. These are from Croatia.
Plasma.
Oh, this is Plasma?
Plasma, yeah.
Plasma. All right. So anyways, but you see here they're called Lane, which means deer, and there's Bambi.
It means fawn.
It means fawn. Am I ever going to get to my drinking point?
I don't know.
So, if we look at the way they're drinking, and the metaphor of wine, is they're getting to the truth with one more liter. And like she correctly says, they're not really getting at the truth. And this guy is trying to drown his world in wine. And in the first verse, the friend is described as somebody who has a cellar full of wine. So it's the same substance, the same liquid, except the friend who's capable of engaging life on real terms, not falling in love with ideas, is able to have wine in a controlled place in his cellar and is comfortable and happy. Whereas the narrator is drowning the world in wine.
Yeah. I mean, it starts off as symbolizing some kind of stability and maturity, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, drunken debauchery.
Yeah, these are really good, by the way.
Yeah, can I have one?
Yeah. It's not very professional, you know, to eat on camera, but we've only got one song left. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the final song. I'm not even going to edit this. No, I will. Odlazi Cirkus. I get it?
Finally, yeah.
I finally pronounced
Yeah,
it.
that's the album name.
That's the album name. And we're going to talk about this song. And I think what I want to do, I want to play it for you again. A very sad descending piano line. Again, we're back in the world of the epic sound of this album. The deep, sweeping. It's a romantic soundscape. You know, you get just, Kristich and the guitar join in the second chorus. The synthesizer joins later. The bass gets louder. The guitars and the vocalists, everything gets super loud. Okay, let's have a little listen to this.
Odlazi cirkus iz našeg malog grada, širokim drumom što izlazi na most. Odlazi cirkus I ja se pitam sada, ko je domaćin, a ko je bio gost. Nestaje cirkus u širokoj ravnici.
And I think the way that it builds here really is very reminiscent of the first song, of song of Vasa, and just how it builds up and gets more and more as we go along here.
I tužni pajac što bio mi je drag, da je sve bilo samo jeftin trik.
Nice hearing the bass so loud as well. Now lyrically, this is a tough one for me to place. I think this, according to my wife, this is one of the most famous songs on the album, but I must admit, it is my least favorite song on the album. I know, it's the title track. I still like it quite a bit, but I don't know, maybe it's because I'm having trouble fitting it into my thesis, which is part of the problem of being an academic, is not everything fits into your neat little thesis, professor. Feel free to put that in the comments. This is about the ephemeral art, the ephemeral nature of art and performance. It's about the circus leaving, Odlazi Cirkus. And it isn't just about that, right? Because theoretically, we could have a song about the circus leaving, and there's plenty of songs about the meaning of the circus for little kids. But this isn't really about what the circus was for the people that was there. It is only about the leaving. It's about the leaving of the circus, and it's about the forgetting of the circus. And if I could return to my damn central thesis again, which I'm just realizing the song works quite well, the circus itself is a very romantic image. But this is a song about how not only does the circus leave, but the memory of the circus leaves. Very specifically, he talks about these, again, beautiful details about the mark of the tent on the ground and how you can still see it. Then you see the posters up on the walls in the town, but people have already drawn mustaches on them, little kids have. And he talks about how children will talk about the lights, but they will forget about it tomorrow. This is one of these words I can't translate into English. Sutra means tomorrow, but it also means sometime in the future. I don't know how they speak. I don't know how you understand each other in former Yugoslavia. What the hell is it? It means tomorrow, but also sometimes in the future, which as a parent, I would love. Dad, can we go to the mall? Absolutely, tomorrow. Tomorrow is in tomorrow, or tomorrow is in the future, tomorrow. These kids are going to forget it. It isn't going to stay with them. It feels very meaningful when you're making the art and when you are the clown or you are the jester, who he talks about himself as being throughout this entire song. But fundamentally, it moves on. You move on to the next town and the people will move on to the next entertainment. The question of the song is who is the host and who is the guest? That's what keeps on coming back. Like, did the people visit the circus or did the circus visit the people? I am not happy with how much I don't have an answer to that question. I don't think I have fully understood this song yet, which probably is why it is my least favorite song. It's the last song on the album, and I think a lot about each of these songs. But what does this mean? The host, who is the host and who is the guest? How could they be the host? I suppose they could be the host because they're letting people into their lives, into their art. In this song, the musical creation and the act of being a clown are exactly the same, being a jester, whatever. The circus is very clearly the music. The clown is very clearly Balašević, and they're leaving. And it's very easy to hear this and just think of it as a sad ending to an album with sort of weird sort of gravitas. But I think it goes back to this real nature of trying to understand reality on reality's terms. Everybody forgets a circus. Everybody moves on. Every circus moves on. Although, according to my wife, not everybody forgets a circus. How old were you?
Oh, I don't know. Elementary school?
Okay, so at some point, when my wife was 8 or 9 years old, in the town of Bor, which if you've never been to Bor, it is a pretty tough town. You know, it's a mining town on the far, far east of Serbia. Beautiful in some ways, ugly in others. Apparently the circus came to her town and she remembered it for years and years and years and still understands it, which maybe underscores the reality, which is of course that artists might feel like their art disappears, but it stays. And apparently after Balašević died last year, people would often play this song, which is funny, that part of the thesis of the song is that you're not going to remember my art, but this is part of the art that will be remembered forever. And I think this ties in a lot with the album cover as well. I haven't talked too much about this. I don't like this album cover. It feels to me like a high school art project or something, but it does merit some study, right? The idea of this clown who is in a room and he's locked in, right? He's locked in the room, but it also looks like the lock might be open. I don't think it is. I think that's the shadow. But obviously he could get out the window if he wanted. So he's both a prisoner and he's free. He is smiling, but he's smiling at nobody. If this was the cover of a horror movie, I would believe you. You know, we have this leaf here, obviously representing the changing of the seasons, tying into this whole sort of theme of time moving on, the circus is moving on, which is then echoed on the inside, where we have the image of Balašević himself walking away with his guitar. This is also the same image that's featured on the album itself, on the little insert on the album. And I think this is very clearly, you know, this is him inside, and then here he is breaking away. We have another little indicator of Vojvodina agriculture. Even in the song, he talks about the plain, which according to my wife, everyone knows if you're talking about a plain in Serbia, you're talking about Vojvodina. So this is the kind of turnip they would make sugar out of, and this kind of image here. And then on the back, we have the masks, and that's part of the song is about the nature of masks. How, like, what is the truth? Is it all a mirage or is it all real? That's the other song, the other question in this song. And, you know, that does fit. That does fit. That does fit the thesis that I've been driving at. Because what is real and what is just artifice? And how much pain can you have if you only follow the artifice, if you only follow the mask? My wife told me that she wanted to say something at the end. So I'm going to move closer so that she's closer to the camera. Okay, so you have something you want to say?
Yes, well, so I'm gonna pull a sky, which is, I'm gonna bring in a really big point without ever telling you before off camera.
Okay.
And it's actually working out really well because you've sort of figured it out without knowing some of the sort of important biographical detail. Mm-hmm. And part of why I didn't tell you is because you were already going in that direction, so it was gonna be fun to figure out if you get there. And then the other reason is because you intentionally don't want to know it, because you want to just observe the art. And there's clearly a struggle within you how much to do one or the other.
To make that clear, I don't know much about Balašević's life at all. I don't look him up. I don't read his biography. I don't read interviews with him. I don't
read what other people say about him, especially.
I just try to be a good faith listener who... Hey Toby, who knows that he's a great artist, who matters a lot to my wife. So she knows everything. She's read everything. She's the big expert. So what do you have to tell us?
Yeah, so, you know, you were talking about how there's a lot of shared themes between the previous album and this one. And, you know, that really does make sense because the first one that you reviewed, Moju mami umjesto maturske slike u izlogu, came out in 79. This one came out at the end of 1980. And you said that, you know, there are these themes of romantic versus real and sort of like the theme of who Balašević wants to be, the theme of leaving and when, you know, like what you gain from leaving versus what you lose and, you know, whether leaving is an option or not and the consequences of leaving for yourself and other people. And, you know, I would imagine most of the time while making this album, since, you know, we know that he must have started making it after Moju mami came out, which was in 79, he already knew that he was about to become a father.
Ah.
Because wow. I actually just looked up the exact date. His oldest child, his oldest daughter, was actually born in December of 1980.
Wow.
So
there is that sense of moving and transition and moving towards a real life and away from the life of a beggar and a king and standing in the rain and all that. Like he had to be more like the friend.
Yeah.
With his cellar of wine as opposed to drowning the world in wine.
trying to figure out what kind of a realist he is going to be and how to reconcile that with obviously his romantic part of himself. And it also explains why there is such similarity between the two albums, you know, that like proximity in time when they were made, but also a lot of really big differences, because how do you move on so quickly from the themes of the first album onto the theme of the second album,
right,
unless there is some big life-changing event that you're thinking about, and that's what it is.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a good postscript.
That
was a neat trick.
It sounds like you did get there without knowing this.
Yeah. Well, it's all there. You just have to look hard enough and get lucky. All right. Well, thank you so much for another installment. The next one will be probably in a while from now, but it will be on 3, because I've already reviewed Poob. I've already reviewed Cello Triviality the Kid. So the next one will be on 3, which is like her favorite album of his. So we're pretty excited about that. Yep. But she says that about all of his albums. Okay. Until next time, for Sancho Panza, there's the camera.